Well, that was interesting.
What was?
Well, that was interesting.
What was? What was?
The echo and the fact that our stinger half played and then played over the music. Well, yeah, at least we know that we are technical geniuses when it comes to streaming live. But hello and welcome everybody to our weekly show. This is going to be the last show on Loki because guess what? It was the finale last night. And what a finale we got. It was awesome. In fact, it will be our last show for a while as we are moving studios after this week. So we don't know when we're going to be back, but hopefully very quickly as we've just been approved for a place. So we might be moving in there shortly.
We have?
Yeah, the 2,200 square foot place.
When are you going to tell me that?
Well, he literally just messaged me before I go live.
All right.
So we've got to break down the studio, ship it all to our new place, and rebuild it. The magic of the movies. But yeah. We're here today talking Loki finale, and then we're going to brush shortly on Black Widow because we went and watched that at the weekend. But Michael, how you been? Did you enjoy the episode? And I'll let you talk first.
I thought we were doing Black Widow first.
I thought Loki because we just watched it and it was fresh in our mind, and it was actually the better of the two.
Well, I was just mentally preparing myself for Black Widow.
Well,
so these are the kinds of things you should tell me before we go live.
That's a fastball there. They'll throw you a fastball.
No, that's a curveball.
Yes, that's true. That is a curveball.
So I'm just trying to get the stream hosted and stuff. So why don't
Well, he's hosting that. We have lots of good content on the YouTube channel. Michael has a great Twitch channel where he streams video games. We're playing a video game at the moment called No Man's Sky, which has been out for a while, but it's brand new to me and Michael as well, and it is a phenomenal game, like insanely huge. So check MTJ Disorder out on Twitch and watch us play No Man's Sky. But don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave us a comment. Join the conversation tonight. We'd love to hear what you thought. Did all your theories come true, or were they all completely wrong? Ours were we've had some that have skirted truth, but more often than not, we've been way the fuck off in left field. So, anyway, I'll give you my thoughts, Michael. First off, I thought the overhaul series...
there we go. I got it hosted.
Cool. I thought the overall series has been phenomenal and way above the first two series. We've got, massive step up. To me, if we count this as a 6-episode movie and put it all as one... it would be my top 10 of MCU movies. I thought the writing's been phenomenal. I think the acting's been great. Visually, again, Marvel have knocked it out of the park visually. Score-wise has been phenomenal. Yay! More echo. The score has been excellent. Very different from what we usually get, but very, very... appealing, let's say. But apart from that, let's talk about episode 6. Heavy spoilers, by the way. We'll go straight into it. We, last week, didn't want Kang the Conqueror to be the reveal. And in a way, we were kind of right. It wasn't the reveal that it was Kang the Conqueror, but it was a Kang variant. And it turns out that it's... I keep forgetting it. What were they called?
Immortus.
No, what do they call him, though? What does Miss Minutes call him?
He That Remains.
He That Remains was the bad guy in the Citadel in the sky. But starting off on the episode, I thought it was a very good use of previous snippets of Marvel movies as we pan back out from the Marvel franchise. And then as we kept panning further and further out through time, we got lots of different other quotes and sounds until we basically got a view of the sacred timeline being a loop that obviously feeds back on itself, very Ouroboros, and then we panned into the Citadel in the middle. I liked the first part of this, the first part of this, because it set up a lot of tension without it being overtly, purposely trying to do it. We got to see our two characters interact in a scenario that they didn't know. And they get into the Citadel, and then we get that scene with Miss Minutes, which, first time watching it, I just thought she's like a security AI. But then Michael pointed out to me while we were driving today that there did seem like something a bit sinister behind the kind of stuff she was saying. Now, I don't know whether she was just a projection of He Who Remains' persona, trying to stall them, bullshit them, basically. But Michael pointed out that he saw on Twitch that somebody had screen captured a picture of her.
Twitch?
Was it Twitch or Twitter? No, Twitter. On Twitter. Screen captured Miss Minutes looking very kind of like...
Not someone, everyone.
Everyone, devious and evil.
So you go on Twitter immediately after this episode comes out and you go look up the hashtag Loki, and every post is, my God, she's scary. My God, she's terrifying. This scene right here, oh my God, just now it's gonna be in my nightmares forever. So there was a lot of people pointing out that Miss Minutes was a little bit on the terrifying side of things.
And I noticed it the second time around. It is kind of she's kind of trying to deflect, whilst also at the end she basically threatens them. She says, well, she might as well have said, well, it's your
no,
day.
she doesn't threaten them. She says good luck with that when they say we're going to make our own destiny,
which to me is a bit of a threat. And then we get the reveal of He Who Remains, who basically is played by the same actor who's playing Kang. And you didn't know this when you first watched it, did you?
What?
That the actor of He Who Remains is Kang the Conqueror in Ant-Man, the upcoming Ant-Man movie.
No, so I didn't know who the actor was playing Kang, that's for sure. But I started to very much think, as this whole sequence of events unfolded, I started to think to myself, as like, this is someone... Obviously, that there's going to be Marvel fans out here who are going to be doing the Leo DiCaprio meme, pointing at the screen. Yeah, I knew that was likely to be the case, but as you start to, I didn't realize it was the Conqueror until the final clip of the episode. Because that he looks like the character from the comic books, minus like the headgear and whatnot.
Well, to be honest,
I didn't. Going back to our desire to not have this be a reveal at the end of this season, that was based purely on the fact that we just didn't want it to be like
dun dun dun.
We didn't want it to be like the reveal of Khan, for instance, in Into Darkness, where it's like, look at the camera and I'm like, I'm Khan. Like, you didn't want this guy to turn and look at the camera and be like, yeah, I'm Kang the Conqueror, yo. My worry is like, if they do that, there's going to be a lot of people watching this show thinking to themselves, well, so what? What does that mean? Who the hell's that? But what they did do was they kind of, from the moment the elevator door opens up to him appearing to pretty much the very final clip of the episode, they really, really developed this character and made us question ourselves as we're watching. Who is this? Like, is what he's saying the truth? Is what he's saying not the truth? Is there a little bit of both? Like, what is this guy's motivations? Where did he come from? All of that is actually masterfully revealed to you over the course of the 40-minute episode.
Yeah, because it could have been done very clumsily. Like you say, like, I'm Kang, and it just feel like, and that's what we were worried about.
And I think there's a testament to the actor. I was really impressed with the actor. I should probably get up his name real quick. I really like the way this guy plays this role.
The moment the elevator opened and he was eating an apple, you knew he was an asshole.
So I felt that. No, I didn't get the asshole vibe from this guy. I got the like mad, quirky, I've gone insane because I've been living for eons and eons and eons type of vibe from this guy. Almost kind of like, is it Stargate season 9 or 10 when they come across Merlin and they thought about making the Sangreal, the Holy Grail and whatnot. That the way that Merlin's portrayed right there, he's not the calm and collected Merlin that we know from that was on Atlantis. He's like, he's gone nuts from literally living for so long. That's the kind of vibe I got from this guy, and the actor really played the role quite well.
The thing
Jonathan Majors, that's his name.
The thing I really liked about the way he played it was, we expect a certain way that a villain, a big bad villain, acts, and from the moment, like you say, the door's open, he's not acting like that. He's not acting like somebody that you would expect to be the man that remains at the end of time, manipulating time to be one sacred timeline. You don't expect the way he portrayed it to be like that. And I thought that was a very good choice, either by the writers or the directors, to have that the reveal of the guy behind the curtain isn't the mustache twirling, or even to the point where he's like a narcissistic, overconfident bad guy.
No, he's very straightforward with what he tells us. Like, it's because we have our two heroes kind of portraying the dichotomy of the situation. You've got Sylvie, who's like, he's lying. We came here to do a job. We're gonna do the job. But then you got Loki, who's, wait a second, I've had my mind blown every step of the way to this point. This doesn't seem that far-fetched, really. Insane, but I don't think this guy's lying. So we've got this nice dichotomy. This is basically the two viewpoints that I feel anybody watching this is going to fall into either of.
That's what I was just going to say.
Either category.
From me, when I was watching it, Loki was seeing these events unfold from my point of view. He was kind of listening to what He Who Remained had to say, and was kind of believing him, because what the guy was saying was believable. But like we talked after the second time we watched it, I did also get the feeling that this guy was just basically BSing them, because he basically knew up to a certain point what was going to happen.
I wouldn't say BSing, but he admits that he'd fibbed. He was fibbing, but he only admits that after the moment where
he can't see time anymore.
Yeah, and
because he knows he's
the
fucked.
Threshold. Well, I don't think it's a matter of knowing he's fucked either. I just think, because he might not be able to tell the future anymore, but there's still like eons of wisdom in the guy. To me, he seems like a very all-powerful being, even though he's not. He's still a mortal, flesh and blood human. He has this, and again, testament to the actor, he has this sort of gravitas to him that makes him seem like just a wise, intelligent, beyond keen intellect kind of guy, like a Lex Luthor type almost. Lex Luthor is a little bit more narcissistic and diabolical, but also we find out, though, that this guy has variants who all have those traits, but the one trait that they all have in common is that they are the smartest person in their universe, the person who discovers the multiverse. And so now going back to what I was saying about the dichotomy there, I think that the reason that dichotomy exists is because there's very good, compelling reasons to believe and not believe him. Because, as you pointed out, he's still trying to stall to see if he can influence time one last time and get them both to relent and go and become the new bosses of the TVA. Once he can get them to that point, he kind of has this flash of relief on his face where he's like, okay, well, I wasn't able to get that. There's only one option now. Might as well die. And again, another meme. Well, but I tried to get the Lokis to take over the TVA. Didn't work. Might as well die.
Well, that was it, though, like you were saying, the dichotomy. While he's saying all this, whether it's bullshit or not, or he's trying to protect himself, is you've got one of our characters.
I'll tell you now that the kind of way he's behaving, that's not the actions of a guy who's trying to save his skin. He doesn't care. He knows it's all bigger than his own life.
Well, I think he knows it's a lost cause. I think he really knows that.
But he also knows that this is way bigger than all three of them. The three of them are just mortal flesh sacks on the grand scale of what's to come.
Yeah, well, that's what I got as well about the fact that he's saying all this, and one of our characters, literally, no matter what he said, she wasn't believing any of it. She was there to kill him. She was there to finish it off with years and years of pent-up vengeance and hatred and wanting revenge. Whereas our Loki...
Pent-up vengeance and wanting revenge.
Yeah.
Those are the same thing.
Yeah. Our Loki, on the other hand, was open to the suggestion of what he was actually saying. Like as he said, he's basically a benevolent dictator. If you remove me, be wary of what replaces me. And we've seen it in real life, that kind of shit. We think we as Westerners try and remove a dictator, we remove him, think we're doing good, and all that happens is somewhat worse fills the power void.
10 more fill the spot.
I did get a very Lex Luthor feel from Dawn of Justice, though, when he said when he's dying and he's like, basically they're coming. I got the Lex Luthor ding 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 ding, ding vibe. Okay, so tell me a few before we carry on talking about what we did like. Give me a few things of anything you didn't like about this episode.
There's nothing. This is the best episode of the show.
I didn't dislike, but I think everything that happened in the TVA with Ravonna, that didn't really do anything for me, because again,
supplementary. That's all.
It didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, it's not meant to. And to be honest, I'm thinking that as I'm watching it, but then when she steps through the time portal, that's basically this is the next season's plot right here. I'm leaving center stage, walking off. That's it. That's curtains on Renslayer and whatnot. We do get some interesting tidbits though. We find out that she was a teacher,
and that's how they showed the other Minutemen. Yeah, that you're all variants.
But then it's all kind of, again, this is why I say I can understand you feeling that in the moment. But the one thing that happened in this episode that just makes that irrelevant and makes your worry about that completely inconsequential is the fact that once Loki's returned to the TVA, they're all back to normal and no one even remembers who Loki is, and they're all back to business as usual.
Well, let's talk about that. Obviously, after the point where He Who Remains can't see anymore, because like up until this point he says, I've seen everything, I've seen how it was, I say how it will be.
Well, the last time we see Mobius and B-15 before an off-screen assumed reset is when they're both looking at the timeline, just going completely nuts, and they say those words. It's like, for all time, always, and that's it. That's the last time we see them, presumably as themselves, as the people they had become. Because the next time we see them,
I think they've changed at that point already. I think from the point where He Who Remains says that he can't, that's it.
No. So there's visual indicators that they haven't. So the one being that Mobius is all dirty and his like tires are loose and whatnot, and then when we see them again, he's not. He's clean and his tires all nice and. So that's a visual indication that it's not.
When we see them looking at the monitor and it branches, has Loki already been pushed back through the portal? Mm-hmm. Right, because obviously from the point where He Who Remains says that's it.
That's why I told you as we were watching it that when Loki's running through the TVA, things are slowly getting less chaotic. Did you not notice that? You got people running down the corridors, and then you got one who's like, report to the barracks, and then it gets less and less chaotic until he approaches them, and now they're just talking about, oh, what's this Nexus branch that we're talking about? And oh, if we don't handle this now, it's not going to be. So it's like everything's resetting in real time as Loki's rushing to find Mobius.
Yeah, right at the end. So we get to that point though where the sacred timeline breaks. Mm-hmm. Visually, I thought that was phenomenal.
It's what makes me think that the primary observer of the MCU has finally been reduced to one person at this very moment in time, and it's Loki.
Yeah, it could be.
Which is why he might be the hero to actually fix everything.
Well, he is the only remaining person off that sacred timeline who remembers the sacred timeline. Everybody else on that sacred timeline will now be all on different multiverses.
Well, they're all, but no, because there's our Doctor Strange and also Scarlet Witch. They're currently unaware of it as far as we know.
But if what we saw at the end of the show, where there's like it's a multiverse now, they will have created other.
No,
Doctor Strange.
It's a multiverse now, but it doesn't take away the fact that there's that domineering timeline still, the center of it all. Remember, it's a tree with branching whatnot. So when he's telling us about how him and his variants discovered universes stacked on top of each other, those universes were unaware of each other. So for all intents and purposes, isolated individual sacred timelines. And it was only once they started going into each other's timelines and branching off, creating nexus events, that it became a war for which is the dominant timeline. So I'm assuming I'm going to call him Immortus, but I'm assuming Immortus, when he created his timeline, he did everything he could to sever that timeline from other timelines, like actual dominant timelines, in order to protect his own timeline from the war.
See, and what I got from the visual at the end was the single sacred timeline basically looked like, once it had all started branching and it looked like it had blown up and it no longer existed.
That's where I wish I had pen and paper again, because and I wish we had the visual aids, because it's hard to explain. So listen to the words I'm saying.
Evening, Cashel.
So there is a primary conduit for every universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
A primary conduit. The sacred timeline is representative of that primary conduit for this timeline. All right? You following so far?
Yeah. So
what you saw from the Citadel at the end of time, that was just our timeline. Our primary timeline. So I'm not going to use the word sacred timeline, because now there is no sacred timeline. Every single other version of the sacred timeline exists in peace from the other until it gets out of control and starts branching off, and they start interfering and messing with each other. That's why that threshold exists.
So you believe that all these other multiverses still exist, but they know what He Who Remained did was isolate his timeline from all the other timelines.
Which is, for all intents and purposes, what probably existed prior to him discovering all the other timelines. Which is why I say this is where you still feel like, even though this guy was the best of all of his variants, he's still kind of a villain, because realistically what he should do if he wants to stop it all from happening is go back and stop himself from discovering the multiverse.
I just had a thought just as you were saying that. So basically, He Who Remained, this wasn't Kang that we just saw was a goofier version of Kang. It's similar to how the Mandarin was held in Iron Man. I agree it was a goofier version. It was a variant of Kang, but it wasn't, like you say, it wasn't Kang the Conqueror. But back to my thought there. So like you said, so what you were saying is...
Yeah, because it's the guy who plays him.
Yeah.
This is the same actor who's going to be playing him in Ant-Man.
So Kang the Conqueror will be a version of the guy that Sylvie killed.
It's like the difference between Loki and Sylvie.
Yeah.
You've got Kang the Conqueror is just one specific variant of this person.
So here's my thought. I'm just going to quickly do this because I didn't realize this didn't do. I'll talk about it while I'm doing it. So you just said that our version, Immortus.
I'm calling him Immortus.
He Who Remains.
Because from the reading I've done in the comics, there's two variants of Kang who are good guys. Immortus is one of them, and I forget the name of the other one.
I'm going to call him Jeff.
It's like Rob something.
So Jeff protects our timeline from all the other evil timelines, like you say, and it's obvious in this episode that they point out the lack of free will that this person has done. So what you could basically say is this guy is manipulating the sacred timeline, reducing people from having free will. So basically, on a grander scale, he's doing exactly what Wanda did in Westview, which is how I think she links into this. He basically has done what she did, but on a way, way bigger scale. Because again, he kind of feels.
I also think there's a confusion in the plot here for me, because where does the TVA's influence come in? Because she kills him, but the TVA still technically exists. So like even with him dead and gone, the TVA would still be doing their job of keeping the timeline in check.
Unless
this is where the storytelling doesn't get lazy or anything, but it definitely gets too complex for its own good, because Renslayer says that the timekeepers are planning out how time should go, which is something he already knows, and then he's relaying that information to the TVA so that they know what is and what isn't a variant timeline.
So maybe though he was the little Dutch boy with his finger in the dam, keeping time at bay and passing the information back down to the TVA to help them out.
That's what I was saying last week.
But the moment he's gone, time can just go fucking haywire.
Well, the moment he's gone, there's no one to relay that information to the TVA.
No, so all the branches just start going off and they don't know where to go or what to prune or what to do. But as far as the TVA
Except by the end of the episode, we already know that from Loki's perspective, there's already someone who stepped in and taken the power.
So from that last episode, that last scene, like you say, is the TVA still exists. But the reason why I think the TVA exists is because I think the TVA exists outside space-time. So they're not the TVA is getting affected small, but not as much as all the other timelines.
But it's also changing in real time.
Because we see that instead of 3 timekeepers now, there's Kang the Conqueror, who we know is a bad guy. Even though he who remained was a bad guy, but more benevolent.
Well, no,
but
again, we only know it's Kang the Conqueror because of what we know from the comic books. If you're watching this show without any prior comic book knowledge, you're just getting you're going to make the assumption that what the guy said was true, what He That Remains said was true, and that one of the variants of him has now stepped in and taken power for himself.
Yeah.
And this is what I was having a discussion with you about. If you were a variant of He That Remains and you knew what was going to happen, you knew what needed to be done, what would be your first target in order to consolidate your power?
The TVA. The cops that police time.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, you're really dark all of a sudden. Because we turned the big light. I was like, why are you so dark? We turned the light off. So the great thing about it was it left us asking so many questions, but didn't leave me feeling wanting.
See, I don't think it does.
Oh, it does.
No, okay, so when you look at WandaVision, and like you think of how the uproar of people being pissed off because things didn't pan out the way they expected. This show did not do that. This show made sure that everything that happened was contained within the narrative. There was no need for outside influence. You don't need to know who Kang the Conqueror is to understand who this guy is. You don't need to know anything other than what is told to you in the script.
Yeah.
Everything that is required to understand what happens within the 6-episode runtime, right? Whereas in WandaVision, you get to that ending and you really do feel like they were trying to lead us on that there was more to this than there really is, and in the end, no, it wasn't. It was just an origin story for Scarlet Witch.
So Kashal has asked, he didn't get he was confused at the end why Mobius didn't recognize Loki. Could we shed some light on that? Unfortunately, not, because we don't work for Marvel, but we can give you our ideas.
So this is where I think you're basing like your questions come from.
Yes,
that's expected in a season finale. That's a good little what the hell moment.
Well, that's just
whereas everything but that is close-ended. Done.
But
dusted.
But that's what
the complete story arc of Loki and Sylvie has gone, and the whole TVA mystery and the whole Timekeeper mystery has had a beginning and it ended. And now we have a new story where the threads of that are shit.
But that's what I was meaning.
Loki's back in the TVA, but everything seems to be back to normal. But there's one of the variants is in control now, and Mobius doesn't remember him, and so on and so on.
Well, that's what I was getting at. The show left us asking lots of questions, but didn't make us feel like we weren't satisfied.
I don't think it asks lots of questions.
It does.
It just asks that.
Right. So it asks, why doesn't Mobius recognize Loki? Where is Loki? Why is Kang the Conqueror in charge of the TVA? Where's Sylvie?
They're all okay. Other than where's Sylvie, they're all these.
Where did Ravonna go?
All the same question.
Where did Ravonna go? Who's Miss Minutes?
Yeah,
there's lots of questions.
No,
still.
they're all the same question. They're all part of the same thread.
But they're still all questions.
Okay, so when I'm talking about like a TV show leaving unresolved plot threads,
no, I didn't say unresolved. I said they just left us asking more questions.
That's what people mean when they say like this just raises more questions. These are not questions that are out of the ordinary. These are like this is
Never
all
said they were.
These are all to be expected. Stay tuned for season 2 shit.
Exactly.
That's not like, oh man, we have no idea what's going to happen there. Like everything was resolved, and then just a quick tee up of, well, all this TVA shit to deal with, and where do we go from here?
Do you know what the biggest question is? Is what's happening in real life?
What's happening in reality? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how has the sacred timelines collapse?
Well,
affected.
I'd like to answer Kushal's question.
Go ahead.
Before we move on, because my theory is so Sylvie pushes Loki through the door, right? and sends him presumably back to the TVA that she thinks is there already in existence, which probably exists probably somewhere in the quantum realm where time travels differently. She then kills He That Remains. The universe, the multiverse starts to get out of control. And we're seeing now in real time as Loki is rushing to find Mobius, because Loki has that moment where he sat down and he's just like, really, you can see, like, Tom Hiddleston, great actor, you can see he's processing all the shit that just happened to him, and it really is. He does convey like a really good moment of helplessness there. Like he's just sitting there not knowing. It's like, what do I do now? What the fuck do I do? This person now is fighting for betrayed me. The reality as we know it has been turned on its head. What the fuck do I do? And then he has a moment where he's like, okay, glorious purpose. And he goes looking for Mobius. Meanwhile, whilst he's doing that, I think the reason it's shot this way, where it shows him passing all the Minutemen, and it shows the chaos inside the TVA slowly getting less and less and less until he catches up with Mobius, and presumably, as I said, clean shirt, nice suit, tie, and it's all back to normal. Everything inside the TVA, as Loki was looking for Mobius, was resetting in real time to whatever this new leader has desired.
So Kushal says the TVA shouldn't be changed if the timeline changes because it exists outside time and space.
It's not. So it's not changed because of the timeline. It's changed because this new leader, this new variant of He That Remains, has he's already got to work. So in the brief time that it took for Sylvie to kill He That Remains, send Loki back to the TVA. In that brief time, from our perspective, variants have already started going to war, and one of them has already realized, get into the TVA, take over, put myself at the top, make sure I'm in control.
So that's why
Mobius and B-15 are different, not because they've been changed or reset, but because presumably the same technology that's used to wipe their memories and change them into servants of the TVA has just been used on them.
So this is my thought behind it. I'm with you up to a certain point, but I thought of the TVA being outside time and space of the sacred timeline stays correct. But now that the sacred timeline has broke down into millions of timelines, it's now no longer outside of the one timeline. So now there are multiple TVAs. There's a TVA for every timeline. I didn't shake my head at your theory, so stop shaking your head. So there are multiple TVAs for multiple timelines. And when she pushes him back, as we've seen the branches have already started, she doesn't push him back to the branch of the timeline that he came from, and he goes to a different timeline. That's why when he's running, and he thinks, our Loki thinks he's back in the TVA that he was. But when he meets up with Mobius, the reason why Mobius doesn't recognize him is because he's in a completely separate TVA that is run by Kang the Conqueror, where Mobius and B-15 have never even met this Loki.
So first off, why? Second off, how does she know where to send him? Presumably,
well, she doesn't. She just pops open the door as the Secret Timeline's fracturing.
So it's just a coincidence that he was sent to that room, Mobius's office.
No, so she sends him. She sends him to a room in the TVA.
Thirdly, it exists outside of time, and so the logic of the show and the existence of the TVA insists there can only be one TVA, because if there's more than one TVA, then there wouldn't be a bloody multiverse, meaning there'd only be one timeline.
No, right. So there's only one TVA when there is one timeline.
Right. There has to be only one TVA.
Why?
Because the TVA is what's keeping there being one timeline.
Yes. And hang on. Before you jump in, let me finish my theory. So when we
hypothesis.
Now that we've burst into, let's say, 10 timelines, there's infinite. So there's infinite TVAs who are all now going to be at war. So the TVA that he gets that's run by Kang, if they win, that TVA becomes the one TVA in Kang the Conqueror's timeline. Every single timeline has its own TVA that's battling for supremacy. And in the war that He Who Remained won, his TVA was instrumental in him winning that war to create the sacred timeline.
The only thing that I think that really points to
Kushal agrees with me.
Oh, great. The only thing that I think that points to that is the fact that there's a visual cue that shows Immortus and all of his variants all have prune sticks.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that really indicates that to me.
But also, if you think about it, if the TVA is designed to protect the sacred timeline, that sacred timeline, then if there were other timelines, it would make sense that those timelines have their own protection from their own TVA.
Well, all of the isolated timelines that I was hypothesizing,
which are
earlier,
now all smashing into each other.
They will all have their own.
So
TVAs.
that's what I'm saying, though. As the sacred timeline disintegrated and started going into all these other timelines, she just opened a door to the temp pad to the TVA, and as she pushed him through it, it was changing.
I see what you're saying. You're actually saying that they're an actual other conduit.
Yes.
You're not talking about all the branches of the sacred timeline.
No, she pushed him.
Now. Okay.
Because now all the timelines are crashing into each other.
So we're on the same page there, but I still think that this specific TVA that we were sent back to isn't another TVA. I do agree that other TVAs now exist always did exist in every other timeline. Do you think this timeline separating is like an isolated event? Because in my opinion now, based on what you just said, if this is where we're really getting into theory crafting, if that is actually the case, then you would have to imagine that all of the infinite timelines were at an armistice with each other, where they all said we need to protect our timelines from variants and install these TVAs and whatnot.
So maybe that was the point, but I believe that they were either an armistice or that He Who Remained basically conquered them and put them into subjugate.
All the variants did then. All of his variants will have. They all. It's an infinite amount of this guy rule over infinite amounts of TVAs and infinite amounts of universes. And the way that they make sure that they're not warring with each other and they're not battling for reality is by having the TVA in place, stopping them all from branching into one another.
Yes.
So now this one has exploded. And so as a result, our universe, the MCU, now has to worry about all the other universes coming in and saying, hey, look, you
broke the armistice, we're going back to war.
We're going back, yeah.
And that's what I think, the term multiverse of madness, I don't think it's actually like what we thought. I think the madness is, it's a way of saying multiverse at war, rather than madness. I think now, like you say, an armistice will have been broken, and multiverses are going to go to war.
Except, again, now we go back to the episode specifically, this guy doesn't really explain it that way. He explains it as though there is him, he that remains, there is him, and then beyond him there is the repetition of all the shit he went through to get to that point.
Well, that's why I think...
Could that be hubris?
Well, what I think there is, rather than this idea of all the multiverses now being armistices just running alongside each other, what I get from what he was saying when he was talking about the war is that he was the one that was smart enough and he beat all his other variants. So basically, all his other variants may have been in like multiverse prison, and their multiverses weren't allowed to exist.
So see now,
because when he says if
you're going back to the idea that the only multiverses that exist now are because of the fracturing of the sacred timeline.
Well, and hang on, let me back that up then, because what he says is if you kill me, more will come. So that's the saying, like, if you kill him, you are releasing the multiverse.
He also says, I'll see you soon after she has killed him.
Yeah, so that's what makes me think of, that's why when the sacred timeline breaks down, all the multiverses are released, but because they're all released at once, it's just chaos. And it's going to be chaos throughout the entire multiverse. And we know that Kang knows how to travel the multiverse, whereas no one else will, apart from other beings that can, like Nexus beings and Doctor Strange. But like Captain America and Falcon,
presumably every other universe has his Sorcerer Supreme as well. But then there's also forces like Dormammu and shit.
Like normal people are not going to be able to travel the multiverse, but shit's going to go down over these next few movies.
See, I'm still not convinced that the Multiverse of Madness doesn't refer to the chaos created by fracturing a timeline. It was a centerpiece to the finale of the MCU. The whole Sorcerer Supreme, like if you cause a variant, if you take a stone out of here, you're going to create a new timeline now where we don't have that stone to defend ourselves, and so our universe is going to be doomed and whatnot.
Or open to attack, she said.
Yeah, or open to attack.
That attack could be from another universe.
Yeah, so that is established in universe canon, unless the Sorcerer Supreme doesn't understand.
Well, no, because the Sorcerer Supreme might have been explaining it to Hulk when she draws that line. To me, that's the sacred timeline. She knows about it. She's drawn the sacred timeline because no other timelines exist at the moment. Because
that's what I'm saying. So the idea is that the multiverse of madness is when a solid, policed, clean timeline isn't doing what it needs to do to make sure it remains secure and sacred, and it's fucking up the multiverse.
I just never saw it in any medium projected that way.
Except Endgame.
No, in Endgame she just draws one single line.
Yeah, right. But okay, so you're gonna take this tangent now, which is a different branch of our universe where we don't have the time stone to protect ourselves, leaving us open to attack. From what?
They never say.
From the other multiverses.
Which is, now that we've got the multiverse, that's possibly a good possibility.
That's what I'm saying.
So maybe that is what we saw as the sacred timeline is what the Sorcerer Supreme drew in Endgame. She drew the sacred timeline.
Yeah, the best way, I think, to illustrate, and I can't show you this because it's not in frame, but I'll show it to you. That's the sacred timeline.
Yeah.
And then here is another sacred timeline. And then
Dave's timeline.
And then here there's another sacred timeline. And then here there's another sacred timeline. And so on 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 and into infinity, right? And none of them are interfering with each other because of variance. Because now, so this timeline creates a variant. This is the red line that they're talking about. If the variant hits that, now those two universes are
basically the red line's a ceasefire line. You go across the no man's land.
I think it's a physical boundary of that universe
and causes damage in that.
Yes.
In fact, that would make sense from the opening pan when they pan back and show black holes, and it looks like the universes are in black holes.
Yeah.
So
the multiverse exists, always has done. The multiverse of madness is when one of those universes gets completely out of control and starts fucking with the multiverse.
Well, you never know. They might have it where now that our sacred timeline's exploded, the reason why all the other Kangs are coming is to plunder our universe.
Possibly, but if your hypothesis about the multiple TVA is to be correct, well, then it would imply that the TVA in every single universe is a, for lack of a better term, it's a paramilitary force. It's the SA, it's the SS.
Yeah, well, we got that feeling anyway. So. I do think Kashal,
like in this universe. So in this universe, Kang the Conqueror is in charge.
Yeah.
In this universe, Bob Mortis is in charge. In this one,
Jeff's
in charge. Except he realized that the best way to prevent people from realizing that their free will is a sham, is a scam, is by creating illusion after illusion after illusion to cover up his trail.
Yeah. Well,
so in the sacred timeline of our timeline, the MCU's timeline, because of that, because he's the most benevolent of the crew, we're able to have a relatively peaceful timeline. Because I'm thinking, like, if you look at the one now,
really peaceful.
If you go to the TVA that Loki ends up in at the end, there's just the one dude.
Yeah.
There's Kang the Conqueror.
So
that to me would be like this dictator is not a benevolent dictator. This one is a more hands-on, makes the universe suffer. Because think about it, he's allowed the Avengers to succeed in doing the snap in our universe. What's to say Kang didn't give a fuck? He's like, I'm just going to let Thanos do the snap. And in that universe, the Avengers going back in time to correct all that is a variant to him.
Yeah. So Kashal asked, do you think that the finale sets up Spider-Man No Way Home to be like a Spider-Verse? 100%.
It sets up just about every single MCU property. So
let's look at it. We know that we've got Shang-Chi next, and then the Eternals. I think they will be set before the events of Loki. I don't think we introduce these two new characters into our major plot for Phase 4 going batshit crazy. I think these are origin stories that will be set prior to this. Then the next movie is Spider-Man. and we talked about this. You didn't like the idea of other studio properties showing up in the MCU.
It's not that simple, no. I don't like the idea of portraying an alternate version of a person being played by another person.
But we've seen it in Loki, so that's now established.
And it works as a gag, in my opinion. Like, it's better when you've just got Tom Hiddleston or an older person or a younger person playing younger and older Lokis.
I agree to a certain point, but now if the multiverse is that, they could have, like, we've had Sylvie. Sylvie is a Loki that is different, and that wasn't played as a gag. In the Spider-Verse movie with Miles Morales, you do see different styles of Spider-Man, who are all Spider-Man. I have no problem now because
Miles Morales is actually a different person.
Yeah, well, so is Spider-Gwen, so is Spider-Pig.
Yeah, but
they're different people.
No, but Loki. So the Lokis we see are all Loki.
Different looking Lokis.
They just look different. Maybe not. Maybe the guy with the hammer was a Loki where he comes from a black family.
Yeah.
Maybe alligator Loki is where the Asgardians were
reptiles.
alligators.
They came from Super Mario Land.
But if that's how crazy and how silly they're going, I think that defends your concept of the multiverse more than it does my concept, because that would tell me that the only reason that they're allowed to exist in the first place is because it's that crazy of a tangent timeline.
Well,
because in my concept of
you're using real science
of multiple membranes. Well, yeah. So in my concept of multiple membranes of universes that are isolated from each other, everything would happen pretty much along the same lines. Everything would happen the same in every single timeline, with minor differences. Mm-hmm. Given that now we're talking fantastical elements, given that there's a different variation of Kang in charge of each one. This is the universe where Kang was like, I don't want the Avengers to happen. I want Earth to fall to Thanos. So I'm going to obliterate that, and Tony Stark's mom's going to have a miscarriage, and Tony Stark will never be born, never be able to bring the Avengers together. In this universe, it's a universe where he wanted Ronan to succeed, and so like he has. Instead of the Guardians of the Galaxy like becoming friends, they actually end up killing each other, fighting each other to the death and die, or they end up rotting in prison. This universe up here is the one where Kang now wants. What's another good example?
Well, you like the idea of that the you like the idea of multiverse only having slight differences.
No, it's not even that. I like the idea of that that each universe in the multiverse is its own sacred timeline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a multiverse of madness is only when each timeline starts getting out of control. Because if you think about it as well, this can only happen with the existence of time travel.
Yeah.
So presumably, no one on Earth created any kind of variant until technology existed. Well, it has to be, because he himself says I'm the first person in the 31st century to discover the multiverse, which means prior to that, no one could have discovered the multiverse, which means in his timeline, the Avengers wouldn't have succeeded in...
No, they did. So what he's doing, right, the only reason why variants exist on the sacred timeline, if we're taking them as separate, the only reason they exist is because whenever someone makes a free will choice that He Who Remains doesn't like... He picks them out as a variant.
I don't think it's a matter of him liking or not. It's a matter of him realizing whether it's too much of a variant that it's going to cause a break. Or it
doesn't flow to how he wants to mold the time.
I think he specifically wants the sacred timeline to remain at peace. And so that's why he realizes Thanos needs to be destroyed. Because if Thanos doesn't get destroyed, where does it end? Where does that problem continue? It ends up with the Nexus event.
Just with the Spider-Man as well, for Spider-Man No Way Home, you pointed out that you can have all three of these actors. That Tom Holland's playing an 18-year-old Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield's playing a late 20s, early 30s Spider-Man, and Tobey Maguire was my age. He's playing...
That's how I would be okay with it if that was how it was. And it just so happens that in the Tobey Maguire universe that is now connected to our universe through all of the branches, he was infatuated with MJ and didn't give two shits about Gwen Stacy, and he actually lived with his Uncle Ben and Aunt May, and it happens the way it happens in the Sam Raimi film. The one with Andrew Garfield, he was more infatuated with Gwen Stacy.
Yeah,
and in that universe, Flash Thompson is not as much of a dick. He's actually kind of a decent guy. He's just a bit of a misunderstood bully. And then in the MCU, at this point, presumably Uncle Ben's been dead for years.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be an interesting twist of events if it turns out that Uncle Ben was never involved in Tom Holland, Peter Parker's life? And
well, no, because he says in the first one that his uncle died.
No, but maybe he died when he was like 4 or something.
So Kushal wants to know, do we think that this will mean the What If series is canon? Honestly, it could be now.
Yeah,
they could 100.
I think the What If series is basically going to be the visual aid to explain all of this crazy shit we're talking about. To be like, look, this is what's happening. So since the moment Sylvie killed this dude, all this shit has now taken place.
Anyway, excellent finale. Can't wait for season 2. As I say, it asks a lot of leaves a lot of questions to be answered in season 2, so it leaves us material. What's your overall thoughts of the season, and then we will move on to Black Widow?
I think it's a true return to form, not just for the MCU, but just for directors and TV series
and
creators. Because I've been complaining a lot about the quality of television that we've had in the last 10 years, perhaps. To the point where people are always saying, "Oh, have you watched this? Oh, have you watched this?" And I'm like,
"No,
no." And then I finally give in and watch one episode, and I hate it. The first time that I've watched something in the last 10 years, and I'm like, absolutely.
Apart from The Expanse and The Witcher.
Well, that's what I was just gonna say. The Witcher. So The Witcher's not the same. The Witcher's something I was already pumped to watch because I read the books and I played the video game. The Expanse was something that I've been seeing Star Trek fans, Stargate fans, Star Wars fans have been like, man, you got to watch The Expanse. You got to watch The Expanse. So I was like, oh, you like Battlestar Galactica, do you? You got to watch The Expanse. I finally caved and I fucking loved it. The people are telling me to watch, is it The Shield? Like, I didn't care for that. People rant and rave about Breaking Bad. And I liked watching Breaking Bad. I'm going to get lots of boos here, but I liked watching Breaking Bad the first time, but I've gone back and watched it, and I'm like, I get bored. I tune out of it very early. It's one of those shows where when you know what's going to happen, it becomes less interesting to watch. I think that's one of the reasons why WandaVision might not be quite as good as this Loki series. What other examples? You want me to watch Westworld?
Westworld's brilliant.
I hope maybe we'll get there.
Maybe we should do that. Maybe we should, because Kashal just asked us what series are we doing next. Now, I've seen Westworld and I love it, but I haven't seen season 3. So maybe you could start watching. We could start watching seasons 1 through 2 again.
Yeah.
Because Kashal, I don't know whether you were at the start. We're moving house. So after today, we're going to break down the studio. Don't know whether we'll be in the new house next week. It might be first week of August that we'll be back. So we have got stuff to think about.
I'm going to try to get some produced content made for the channel in the meantime.
So Westworld, I think you should do.
I agree to do Westworld if you agree to do The Last Kingdom.
Yeah, I'll do them both. Last Kingdom and Westworld, and then we could do a double. We'll watch them both, and then we'll do an episode on it.
But anyway, so my point, Loki, on the other hand, it just there's a couple of minor complaints, and I think this is more of a product of the length of the series being only 6 episodes. So it's something that desperately plagued Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That series is very much 100% ruined by the fact that there's just not enough time to tell the story they were trying to tell. They tried, and I think they failed. With Loki, they tried, and they very much succeeded. And the only real issues with it are things like maybe Mobius and Loki's friendship could have been fleshed out a bit better. Maybe
Kashal's going to start The Expanse.
Sweet.
Say goodbye to several weeks of your life because you'll just keep binging.
It's very as a matter of fact, I have a recommendation video on the channel. You should go watch it. So where was I? That's really the only kind of issue I have, to be honest. Is just I could have gotten a little bit more of character development just relationship development.
This is what I got from my overall thoughts.
Let's put it this way: with Sylvie and Loki, it's instant
chemistry.
No. There's chemistry with Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston. With Loki and Sylvie, it's instant. Like what we need to know about their relationship. They're both two sides of the same coin. They're both narcissistic, power-hungry Lokis. One is a guy who's coming off of a failed world conquest and having his entire ego destroyed. One is coming off being ripped away from her home at a young age
and being on the run
and getting used to being on her own. At the end of the day, they end that theme of loneliness is basically the main dominant theme of the whole series, because in the end they end up alone.
Yeah,
they end up completely alone, and so to me that's fine. That's brilliant. It's perfect. As a matter of fact, the relationship between all the Lokis, then the one episode of is Robert E. Grant, is that his name? Richard E. Grant and Kid Loki, the dynamic between the three of them is just so well handled. It's you get everything you need to know in a 45
Richard E.
minute.
Grant ain't dead though.
What?
He ain't dead.
Who isn't?
The old Loki.
He's ascended or something?
Well, do you know when his construct collapses?
Just his helmet gets
and then it's just him, but he's still casting something. He's still spell something when there's nothing else showing.
Sure.
So I think he's projecting himself that Eliath eats,
Sure.
but he's off somewhere else.
So I just wanted a little bit more from the relationship between Mobius and
Hi,
Loki.
Roms.
That's the only thing I feel like was lacking. Other than that, the storytelling, each individual episode stands on its own. I think the only episode that might be hard to watch by itself is maybe episode 2. Because episode 2 is like pretty much just a ham-fisted way of getting. It's like, look, he's working with the TVA now. They've all hung out for a little while. He's been learning all the. It's like episode 2 is like a sports montage of MCU. So, I'm just about done.
You're almost there.
Just about done with this one. I think that episode is the only one that I can't see as a standalone episode. Each one has an amazing contained story with its own themes. The themes are expressed so concisely to the point where there's no real ambiguity of what you're supposed to feel or what you're supposed to think. The only real ambiguity comes in is who's behind all this. Yeah. And when you compare that to the mystery and the whodunit nature of WandaVision, Loki leaves you asking appropriate questions at the end. It's so appropriate that I don't think they're very, very many. I think all of the questions that you've been asking are basically part of the same plot thread. It's all where does the TVA
where do they go from here?
Where does the TVA and the multiverse go from here? Whereas at the end of WandaVision and at the end of Falcon, all the questions you're asking are like logic-based questions. Like, so hold on a second. So is Vision real Vision now, or is he not? Yeah. Like, are her kids real, or were they not? Like, there's things in WandaVision that don't get answered. That's the questions that people are talking about when they say this just creates more questions.
So my overall thoughts.
And on top of that, directed very well, shot very well, special effects fantastic, very beautiful, very striking. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite images of this whole show was in the final episode of the universe splitting and whatnot. I thought it was a very striking visual.
My overall thoughts of the show is. So Rom says, this episode granted my wishes. Jonathan Majors stole the show with his acting. He's going to kill the role as Kang the Conqueror. Yeah, we said earlier on in the show.
I liked the role he played as Jeff, as the benevolent Immortus type guy.
My overall thoughts of the show were, it was fantastic. I've watched movies when I'm like, oh, fuck, that movie should have been 3 hours long. It should be longer. That's what I think they did brilliantly here. This premise for this show was a movie script, but they spanned it out into 6 45-minute episodes and give us a monster-sized movie. Like, if you watch this from episode 1 to 6, you don't need to take breaks. It's just a long 4 5-hour movie.
But do you want to know what was interesting about our second viewing of tonight's episode?
What?
Did we stop and talk and ask?
No, we just watched it.
We just watched the whole thing, because this is my favourite episode of anything that MCU have put out on Disney Plus yet.
Hands down.
This is a strict 9 out of 10 for me.
Well, and that the series as a whole for me gets a 9 out of 10. If this was an MCU movie, it'd be in my top 10.
8 out of 10.
Whereas when we talked, WandaVision to me seemed like a TV show because it was sitcom based, and it did well as a TV show. Falcon and the Winter Soldier tanked because, like you said, that was a story that needed to be told over 10 one-hour episodes because it was actually trying to combat a lot of important themes and messages. But it seemed...
But they were all over the place.
Yeah.
There was no concise storytelling in Falcon and the Winter
Whereas
Soldier.
this, as I say, this was like a well-thought-out, well-scripted, well-structured 5-hour movie that no one complained about sitting through 5 hours of a movie because we got to watch it over 6 weeks. It didn't need to be longer. The fact that we get it in season 2 is fucking awesome because we are the audience. When Loki goes to Mobius at the end there and he's like, sees Kang and he's like, what the fuck's going on? That's how we're left. Mm-hmm. We are that character. We are just like, what? When? Season 2 coming soon? When? Where? So as far as they go series-wise, it's Loki, WandaVision, and then Falcon.
That gave me one last thing to point out real quick, just as a caveat to the whole multiple TVAs theory of yours. Hypothesis.
Yeah.
Really? In this universe, he doesn't know who Loki is?
Because he might not have been in this universe.
You mean like... So defending the segregated multiverse
and multiple TVAs. His TVAs never come across a Loki. Yeah. And as I say, so until we get season 2, just like all the other theories that we came up for this show, we have no fucking idea.
I have no theories. I think, like, for the first time since possibly the end of the first phase in the Avengers, for the first time, I'm just like, I don't care.
Just
keep bringing it.
Keep bringing it.
Just keep bringing it.
The only thing I would say is, with being introduced to Kang the Conqueror, we know he's in Quantumania, Ant-Man 3.
Yeah.
But that doesn't come out till 2023. Does that mean we're not going to get a Loki series till 2023?
Probably.
That would be fucking shit.
Because we also know that Loki is in
Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
Now, that's awesome. If our Loki from Loki TV show is going to be working alongside Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch and whatever that movie is, that's awesome.
But I still don't think there'll be a working alongside situation as there will be a foil,
well, if
getting in each other's way type of scenario.
If there's lots of different universes for Wanda to go try and find her kids in now, I think she's going to do it. So let us know in the comments below what you thought about Loki and the Loki TV show and tonight's episode. We're going to move on to Black Widow now.
I did want to make one.
He wants to make one more point before I talk about Black Widow.
Correction to myself. So if we're basing the multiverse that existed already theory, and just the multiverse of madness is because of the fracturing and the not policing your universe, then it explains why Wanda was able to hear her kids.
Yeah, maybe. Well, see. Anyway, that's it for Loki. We're going to talk Black Widow now. If you've not seen the film and you don't want it spoiled, leave now. I hate telling people to leave, but come back and check out the video afterwards because we're going to talk Black Widow. We went and saw it on opening
We've got
night.
like 50 videos on the channel. Go watch some more of our stuff.
Yeah, and then come back and watch this one.
Give us all a thumbs up and a like and all that jazz.
So, Black Widow, set in between Civil War and Infinity War, was supposed to come out in 2000.
And just a little tidbit, set slightly in the first opening bit during the events of Captain Marvel.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
It's the same year.
Oh, right. Was supposed to come out,
pointless tidbit,
I believe at the end of 2019, if not the beginning of 2020, and be the first film of Phase 4, and then coronavirus hit. So obviously, it's been pushed back, it's been pushed back. My initial thoughts of this movie after watching it and mulling on it was meh. I enjoyed bits. I didn't enjoy bits. It seemed, because of the delay, it just seemed like, well, we didn't really even need this. I thought the action sequences were a bit meh. The parts I really liked were the more interpersonal stuff. Your thoughts?
I think it's a competently made film. I don't think there's any problem with any of the action or anything like that. I think the real problem with Scarlet Johansson, with the Black Widow film is, in a nutshell, it's 10 years too late.
Yeah.
The fact that it needed to be set in the past and we're telling a story of a character who's already basically done their Shane riding off into the distance, sacrificing themselves for the greater good. I feel like that's what this movie essentially suffers from, because as far as the story that's been told, I just didn't give a shit. Yeah. Learning about her past was okay, but the best thing about the film to me is just learning about her relationship.
Yeah, the interpersonal stuff
with Melina, Yelena, and I forget what the Red Guardian's actual name is. I'll have to look it up. David Harbour's character.
Yeah.
That was where
Alexei.
That was Alexei. There we go. That was where the movie excelled. Beyond that, I didn't really care for what was going on, and I was just hoping that end credit scene when she does the whistle, we were going to get a whistle back and then cut to black, because I was thinking the only way that this, as the movie's ended, especially after that crazy jarring fade to black after General Ross shows up, I was thinking, are we going to get a trilogy now? We're going to get a Black Widow trilogy. Are they going to revive Natasha Romanoff from the dead? And especially now that we got the multiverse, right? Why not?
Yeah.
Are we going to have more Black Widow movies?
No one's really dead.
But no one's ever really gone.
Yeah.
But no, it's like the director said, no, this was Natasha's swan song, and I'm like,
and to me it wasn't. And we were talking about this in the car earlier. To me, Natasha's swan song was going out, sacrificing herself to bring back the whole half the universe.
That's what I mean.
What a fucking swan song that is! It's,
the movie was just too late. It was.
I think what they should have done, if they were going to do a prequel, they should have gone really far back, like to how she escaped the Red Room. That story of
an origin story, you mean?
Well, they could have told it all around the Budapest incident of how her and Clint.
Yeah, so an origin story.
How she did her transition to S.H.I.E.L.D.
But then that would have required getting Jeremy Renner on board, and they might not been able to do that, especially considering he was already
they showed a picture of him. But like you say, the film was, I'm not going to say competent, because I didn't like some of the to me some of the action sequences seemed very jarring, especially when the fact that Black Widow should have died 5 times through this movie.
That's not an issue with the action sequence itself. That's just the
internal logic.
That's an issue with the internal logic of whether or not are these widows, are they like, do they have super strength, super endurance? Is there something they're not telling us? Because they don't tell us that. We just kind of have to accept, oh, she hit a vent and then she bounced off a wall. Okay, that was enough to break the fall. She's fine.
Well, if you think about it,
but then we also have a like an offhand joke where she's like building herself up to Yelena about being an Avenger, and she's like, yeah, but I'm talking about, you're an Avenger who doesn't require ibuprofen after a fight.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a little hand wave gag to be like, hey, no, she is actually hurt, and that's what makes it a little bit hard to swallow.
You had the first time Taskmaster shows up.
Masker?
Yeah. And he blows up her thing and it rolls 3 times and then goes through the bridge. She's fine from that. Then you have the part where she's in the Audi with Yelena and it does a flip and goes down the stairs into a train station. That would have killed everyone. Then she falls off the roof. But the silly thing is, she falls off the roof, hits those vents so hard, lands on her feet, and we see a widow who fell the exact same distance, mangled.
Mm-hmm. Except that one didn't break her fall on a vent in the wall and stuff, though.
And then, like the end scene when she jumps out of the crashing ship and lands on a piece of debris, and
she Legolasses that stuff.
She does. Yeah. And that was the bit that really took me out of the movie. I'm just like, because the bits I really liked were the first part of the movie when you've seen her and her fake family as kids, and you got the Red Guardian, he's lying on the side of the wing. That is kind of based and grounded in reality. You could expect, because Red Guardian, we got to think he's same as Steve Rogers. He's had the super serum. He could hold on to the
from the Winter Soldier program.
Yeah, he could hold on to the side of a wing as the airplane takes off. That was really good. And then we got into a really Jason Bourne, Mission Impossible feeling of a movie, as she's on the run from Ross. She's living in Norway. She then goes into Budapest to find her sister. That bit's good. And again, the interaction between her and her sister, even her and the guy that can get anything, obviously, even a fucking Quinjet, how he managed that, I have no idea. That was good. But then you've got these really
shit pockets.
Yeah, he's got a Quinjet pouch. Then you got these action sequences that feel like, and I know Marvel do this because they did it with the last fight scene in Black Panther. It came out, is they plan the action sequences, then they write the script. That last fight scene in Black Panther, they knew they had to have a showdown between Black Panther and Killmonger, so they wrote how that fight was going to go, and then they had to find a way of putting it into the movie. Some of these action sequences feel like that.
Feel like what?
That they came up with an action sequence, right? We want to have an action sequence between Taskmaster and Romanoff. This is what we're going to do. How do we fit it in the movie? Rather than writing a movie and let the action come from the script, they come up with the action pieces first.
No, I think what you mean is rather than have the action sequences given agency by the script, like the problem people have with the prequel lightsaber fights. So you look at a lightsaber fight in Empire Strikes Back. It's not about the lightsaber fight. It's about
Luke and Darth.
It's about Luke and Darth Vader having their showdown with each other, learning about their history, learning about their back and forth, their banter. That's kind of what you mean, right? When they made Phantom Menace, they were like, we need to have lots of swingies and jumpies and twirls.
Yeah,
and stuff.
the action sequences to me didn't tell a story.
It'd be like, okay, so Black Widow is here to put an end to this thing that made her and has enslaved countless other young girls around the world.
Yeah.
So we need to have her perform a set piece which results in that. Rather than that, they were like, well, no, she's going to go in, she's going to do some weird convoluted thing about breaking her nose and severing her olfactory sense, and then that's it. The whole thing's going to come crashing down, and then we're just going to have all this crap go on for the sake of
crap going on the screen.
Yeah.
It was like they came up with the action piece first.
Because she'd completed her task at the beginning of all that. She defeated him and got what she needed. Yeah. I guess he spends most of the action sequence running to his ship. We keep going back every now and then to a clip of him running with his bodyguard, and then Yelena finishes him off. But realistically, nothing that actually happens on that space station or whatever it is, the Red Room, nothing that actually happens on that during that big climactic battle really bears any consequence on the resolution of their task.
Yeah, and like you say, you didn't care about the bad guy. I didn't, and I'm sorry. How stupid is my way I'm going to defeat the bad guy is I know he has a pheromone blocker, so I'm going to smash my face into the...
I'm just going to go stand across the room and shoot him?
Yeah, or put nose plugs in.
They might not have had nose plugs. I can understand that. They were against time.
There was
just
the so much stupid stuff. Like, I didn't care that Taskmaster, which is an interesting bad guy in the comics who mimics. He sees his adversaries fight and he mimics them. The fact that it turned out to be his daughter, I didn't fucking care. I was like, oh, well, that's a bit shit. You got a stuntman walking around.
Hold on, who did you expect it to be?
I haven't read enough to find out.
It didn't need to be anyone.
No, the fact that would it have been if you hadn't found out who it was?
I will say that it is in the text that it was probably going to be her. It's not like they didn't. It's not lazily written.
No,
it is. Once it's revealed to be her, you're like, because see, to me, it was not so much as I don't care. To me, it was like more of an eye roll moment for me.
Whereas if we'd have not found, let's say it was somebody to be revealed later.
No, even that didn't matter.
But no, we never found out who it was.
To me, the two options were what they did, which in execution was an eye roller moment, or it could have just been just some, what's it called? It's my
Taskmaster.
Yeah, it's my weapon X. This is my main go-to. This all the work. Oh well, there you go. You could have had that being part of the struggle of the whole Widows thing. It's like, this is what he intends to do now with the Widows moving forward. These Widows are obsolete. You're obsolete. This is the future. And so that's why she has to stop him. Not because it's his daughter that she needs to apologize to, but because she has to stop Taskmaster because this is the future of the Widow program.
But Taskmaster could have not been revealed and survived and gone on in the MCU. There was no.
Well, I'm saying it could have been no one. It didn't need to be anyone.
It needed to be Taskmaster.
It was just a.
But his whole plot of creating widows is dumb.
Why?
Like, well, I think the line is, I use the largest unused resource on the planet, women. What?
Does he?
Yeah, he says something stupid like that. That's why he has widows, women all over the place. Like.
I don't remember that line.
Yeah, he does say that. Well, that's how much...
I just assumed he picks women because they have that, I guess, espionage element that they can infiltrate and woo, like, male diplomats or whatever. Yeah.
But that would work if you had a crack team of maybe 12. But on that screen, he has fucking hundreds.
Have you not seen fucking... Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Fox Force 5 or whatever it's called.
Yeah, but
like the whole concept of like a kick-ass
Charlie's Angels.
Yeah, like super spy women is not.
I have no problem with that. And you have a small crack team who are infiltrators, assassins. But what don't you do to your infiltrating assassins? You don't make them all wear fucking uniforms.
But that can be that argument can be made about everyone in the MCU.
But not.
That's what I love about the movie Hancock.
Who in
like
the MCU is an infiltration style person? He's got to blend in, infiltrate. No one. We don't know anyone like that.
No, but still, though,
a spy would not wear a uniform.
It's a good like silly obscure reference. But the movie Hancock, when he gets his outfit, like how he talks about how it constricts my abilities and whatnot.
But
the whole superhero outfit thing. That now you're starting to border on. Don't ask that question.
No. So the reason why Hancock is given a suit. Do you remember why he was given a suit? It's branding.
Branding, yeah. Which is what it is for all of the superheroes. So to say that you're not going to put the Widows and Scarlet Witch and all that, and Black Widow and Captain America,
I'm
and
not
Iron
saying that.
All these people in.
I'm not saying that at all.
You are.
No, what I'm saying is, if you have a group of elite infiltration assassins.
No. You see, you made the mistake of trying to make too much sense right there.
Yeah.
No.
Like if you were, but that's true though. If you had a spy.
Well, yeah, but this is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Also, people's eyes don't glisten red when you're in
the military. When you go behind lines on covert ops, you dress like the locals.
Yeah.
When the guys go into Afghanistan, they dress like Afghanis. They don't dress in black leather.
And helicopters don't fly that way.
Yes, that's true.
I think at this point, you've made lots of good, justifiable nitpicks. And then not nitpicks. So you made lots of justifiable critiques of the film. That's a nitpick.
Yeah. So I thought the humor was generally on point.
Just typical MCU humor.
There was a scene which was a bit weird, and that's where they're making a joke out of the sterilization of the widows. Because if you think back to when we found this out, is it in the first Avengers movie when Natasha's telling Bruce? It's actually quite a serious, somber point she's telling him, and then they make a joke out of it in this movie. It's kind of like
I think you might have missed the joke though, because I mean, an understandable. You're not someone's daughter. You're someone's son.
Yeah, the joke is to make the dad feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, but again, so that's the thing. I don't think it's a joke. I think that's intentional, and he deserves it.
Oh, it definitely does.
So I didn't see that as like let's laugh about fucking hysterectomies. I didn't see that as
my favorite part of the entire movie though was Alexei, Yelena, Melina, and Natasha's on-screen time together. Every time they were on screen together as a unit, like when the Red Guardian's pouring his heart out to who he thinks is Natasha. But it turns out that it's not.
And he's like, I wasted all of that on you.
But then he starts doing it again. She goes, I only had one earpiece.
Yeah.
That is good comedy.
It's good MCU brand comedy as well. And it just kind of brings home this whole thing that the MCU has always been good at, regardless of who the director, who the producer, who the people involved are. They're always really good at making ensemble superhero films.
Yeah.
Because essentially this was kind of like a discount Avengers.
Yeah. So anyway, before we wrap up, let's talk about the bit at the end we both didn't like, because it really just didn't make any fucking sense.
So I felt this as we were watching it. I'm like, oh, okay. So what happened? I wanted to know when General Ross is showing up, like what happened. And then the quick cut to her going to get the Quinjet. I'm like, well, what happened? Come on.
Yeah. So she is she's in the field with the Red Room crashed all around her. And Ross's forces turn up. So you've got to think that Ross has obviously no fucking idea what's going on. So he arrests her. Yeah. Are we saying that they...
How did he find them? Why is he there?
No, she sets the tracker off.
Oh, okay.
She sends a tracker to Ross. So because obviously he's hunting her, he's not hunting the Red Room. But think about it. If her plan was to get Ross's reinforcements to take down the Red Room, they'd already taken it down. She didn't need to have Ross there.
Yeah, so she could have just fucked off.
Yeah. And so what I'm thinking that they're saying is that Ross
Well, no, I can tell you what they're saying. The director had an visit, so this is why I say it. I thought about it in the theatre, and immediately when I got home, that's the first thing I wanted to find out about. I was like, what happened between the ending and her getting the Quinjet? Well, it turns out there's a director's interview with it online, and the director says, well, we don't really know. We just didn't want to put in any more because her story had ended there. We didn't want you to just watch your hero finish a climactic battle and then have to go and solve another problem. So we decided to cut to black and let you fill in the blanks. I'm like, no!
And yet we don't...
You didn't need to do that.
No, because we'd already...
I want to fill in the blanks. I'm sat in the movie theatre watching a fucking screen. Show me what happened or don't set it up. There's no reason why Ross needed to show up.
No, because we've already had that scene. What movie is it where Natasha ends up in court and she said, is it end of Civil War? Where she's like... No, it's not the end of Civil War. I think it's end of Winter Soldier, where she's like, "You're gonna need us." And she's, and they're basically saying, "Well, we should arrest you for all the crimes you've done." And she's like, "Go ahead." So we'd already had that scene. Like you say, I think the better way to end
it's because she dropped the plot thread of her setting off the tracker. That's it.
Get rid of
and she's
that
like, oh shit, yeah. So you get rid of the tracker. Don't have Ross showing up at the end, and you just have her fly off with her family.
Or if you're having Ross show up at the end, he could show up looking for her in the midst of all this carnage and chaos. But Natasha's gone off with her family. We've seen it when they
maybe
leave.
She even pulls out another one of those face disguises and whatnot. He just didn't need to be.
And what made it even worse though was the fade to black, cut to her with blonde hair in an Infinity War garb. And then this guy just has a Quinjet. That was even more...
she's just wearing the vest.
Yeah, it was like, what? Why did this happen? Where did this come from?
Reasons, man, reasons.
Because, like you pointed out, if you were going to try and make that make sense, what would have been good is if she'd have met the guy...
And she'd have been like, how did you get this? And he'd have turned around and... Don't, as much as you want to complete my sentence, don't complete my sentence.
My idea.
It wasn't actually.
Go on.
So... she says to him, it's like, how did you make this happen? And he turns around and says, oh, I called in a favor from an old friend. And she's like, who? And you get a da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da, 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 and fucking Cap walks down the fucking gangway and he's like, come on, now you can finish.
Now let's go break out some friends. Because she says, I've got to go break out some friends. And we know it was Cap that did it. Now... So you could say, oh, well, they weren't going to spend that money to get Chris Evans to do a cameo, but why not? It's fucking Marvel.
They could have pulled the fucking Shazam as well, and just had him walking down with the shield in his hand, and then that's where it cuts to black.
And that would have made the music fit way more. Mm-hmm. Because it's weird how they say, I'm going to go break some friends out of prison, but we know it was Cap that went to the... Shit, I forgot what it's called. The Vault? What's the prison called?
The prison under the water.
And then we have the end sequence, the end scene. So... Bear in mind...
This was supposed to happen before...
This was the first time we were supposed to meet Val. But the good thing is, I don't think it looks out of context from how we met her in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
It didn't bother.
The part that's out of context to me is the fact that they want to kill Hawkeye. That seemed weird to me.
Yeah, you'd think that somewhere in the grapevine, Yelena would have probably found out that he wasn't responsible for her death, and also like who told Val about it? Did Red Skull just show up and like,
well,
Hawkeye killed her? And if so, like, why would he say that? It's a lie. She killed herself.
Yeah, especially if we look at the chronological time of when this should have been released. It would have made more sense if at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Val said, I have your first mission, you got to take out this guy, and she shows US Agent a picture of Ant-Man. Because then we know that Val's plan is to take out the Avengers. At the moment, we've seen her with US Agent, and he hasn't got a mission, and then all of a sudden she says, kill Hawkeye. But if we'd have watched it the right way around, we'd have seen Val and know that she's trying to kill Hawkeye. We then would have seen her again in Falcon and the Winter Soldier and gone, oh, she's a bad guy. She wants to kill Hawkeye.
Has Wyatt Russell been cast for Hawkeye?
No idea.
Because that would be cool. I'd love, because he was my favorite thing about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I would love to see him.
Zemo, man.
I would love to see him and
him and Yelena,
his US Agent in Hawkeye. Like, Yeah, and then you've got kind of this again, two people who they're not our heroes. They're new characters. They're flawed, and they're kind of like a foil to Hawkeye. They're trying to track down Hawkeye. It gives Hawkeye something to do other than training his protege to become the new Hawkeye.
The only problem is US Agent is so high profile because he's the ex-Captain America. That's why the whole Val thing it didn't seem right. It didn't fit.
I didn't think anything about it to one way.
I like the fact that they jumped forward, and we know that Yelena now was going to Natasha's grave. I like that bit. I didn't find anything wrong with that.
I wanted her to do the whistle,
but then you would have wanted a scout,
and then would have Black Widow whistle off camera, and it cut to black, and it'd be like, oh, Black Widow will return, and then you're like, oh my God, Scarlett Johansson's decided to come do a trilogy, and oh wow, that would have made this film better.
Yeah,
the reason this film is a 6 out of 10 for me is because it just felt 10 years too late. I don't care.
The good bits of the interpersonal stuff between David Harbour,
it's not enough
Florence
to make
Pugh,
it a good. It's not enough to make it a good movie.
Yeah, those good parts weren't enough over the bad parts to make it. I'd probably even put it as a 5 out of 5.
And it's not even bad parts though for me, because like
I'm
not as critical of superhero films as you are, and that's not a dig.
No.
I'm one of these people who thinks I'm watching a superhero movie, so as long as the writing's good and the internal logic continues to to follow suit and not contradict itself, I don't care if fucking helicopters don't fly the way they're supposed to. I don't care if fucking ghost Red Skulls are appearing for some reason on planets in the middle of nowhere. I don't care if the fucking time travel mechanics don't make sense. As long as the story is enticing, engaging,
and competent,
and gripping, and the filmmaking itself is competent enough, I will give it at least 7 out of 10. The problem for me with Black Widow is it's empty.
Yeah,
it's an empty film, and to be honest, I think it gives Natasha the dirty. It makes a mockery of her character, in my opinion.
To me, this should have come after Age of Ultron and been set at that time.
Or it should have come after fucking Captain America: Civil War. It should have.
Yeah, but I also don't like when the film was set. I would have preferred...
If you're going to set it there, that's when it should have been.
So
realistically, like I said, 10 years too late. It should have been the first film of Phase 2.
Yeah. So Falcon, do you think they're now going to start bringing other members of these other shows into the movies? That was going to be my question.
Well, Falcon for sure, because he's going to be part of the Avengers.
So you think they're going to be part of the Avengers? You think
Falcon will be?
Wanda we know is in the movie, but do you think and we know Loki, but do you think they're going to be like main?
Well, Wanda is still an Avenger, but I think until we get to another Avengers movie, she's going to go through a bit of a villainous spree, and then finally come back to being the good guy, just in time for the next Avengers movie. I think Falcon will be part of the Avengers. Ant-Man and the Wasp are going to be part of the Avengers.
Loki?
Spider-Man's going to be part of the Avengers. No, Loki is...
No, I mean, do you think he's going to be back in movies?
Well, yeah, he's going to be in Doctor Strange.
Okay, and what about Red Guardian, Yelena, and Melina?
I think there's a possibility we'll see them again. They're new characters that they've just introduced. They're not going to just run away from those characters. Merchandising.
Yeah,
but who was I going to say is also going to be part of the Avengers? I think the
Rambo.
No, I think our Dark Avengers are going to be. We're going to have Winter Soldier. Bucky's going to be a member of the Dark Avengers.
So?
I do. I think obviously US Agent is going to be a member of the Dark Avengers. If we don't lose Ronan and Hawkeye and Jeremy Renner, like we've lost the Black Widow character, hopefully this isn't his swan song. Hopefully he's moving on to be the character of Ronan. I would love that. I think he's going to be part of the Dark Avengers as well, especially when you think about now what we know about how Val's sending someone after her. Like there might be a moment where it's
they
like,
actually
no, we don't want you to kill him. We want you to capture him.
Or she tries to kill him, and through it he lets her know what Natasha meant to him.
This is my dream. Dark Avengers is Yelena, Hawkeye, Bucky, what's his face? John Walker. Somewhere in there, I think we need a tech character as well. So maybe War Machine ends up in the Dark Avengers.
This is what I think: Dark Avengers or Thunderbolts, whatever you call them. You're gonna have Red Hulk. You're gonna have Yelena.
Well, we haven't been introduced to Red Hulk yet, but sure.
You're gonna have US Agent. You're gonna have Red Guardian.
I don't think we'll have that many super serum soldiers. That's why I might be off with...
I think Red Guardian instead of Bucky. And the good thing about having Yelena and Red Guardian is you could have a really good overprotective father. As she's trying to do shit, he's always trying to... Because he's not... even though he's not her father, he comes across like he does care for her.
Yeah.
So.
All right, well, let's wrap this up. I'm hungry.
Yeah.
And as usual, I've fucking gone so late that I don't have any... nowhere open to go get something to eat.
Well... Just have to do them.
First world problem.
Dick's run.
No, not when me feeling this way.
All right. So if you liked it, leave a comment below. And
don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And until next time, ciao for now.
Whenever that will be, we don't know. Good night.
What?